welcome to part number 2 of the Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse playthrough. Now in this part we will meet our second playable character and explore some of the earlier levels in the game. Now here's our first level of the part. It is your typical forest area, I don't know what to call it, but it's a pretty generic level. It's something you might expect to see earlier in the game. It's filled with these jellyfish enemies, and these enemies can be very tricky if you're just using the whip or if you're using Grant. Because they split up into multiple smaller jellyfish, or I think they're jellyfish. I don't know exactly what they are, but they look like jellyfish, so I'm just going to use my imagination and call them jellyfish. Anyways, once you hit them once, they split into multiple parts, and yeah, they're pretty tricky. Now here's a great display of some of the problems this game has with controls. If you're near the stairs and you try to use a sub-weapon, you're going to go up the stairs. Because in order to use a sub-weapon, you have to use up and the attack button. And if you press up near the stairs, well, you go up the stairs. Now this is probably the biggest problem with the controls in this game. I wish there was just some way to use the sub-weapons without pressing up. But, you know, since we're using an NES controller, I mean, there's not that many buttons to work with. This problem is later fixed in some of the later games. Like in Castlevania 4, you use the R button to throw sub-weapons, so that's better. But in the other Super Nintendo Castlevania game, Dracula X, you don't use R, you just use up in the attack button again, and I don't know why they went back to the NES controls. It made it a little bit harder to control, but we'll get to that game later on. Anyways, here's our boss for the level. It's some sort of giant creature. It carries a big hammer. The best strategy is to just run left to right and hit it when you can. The best sub-weapon for this fight is the cross, if you have it. Here I don't. I have the axe, which is... it's somewhat effective, but it's really not that great. But you really shouldn't have too much trouble with that boss. Just run left and right, whip it when you can. And if you're using Grant for that fight, well, good luck, because his attack range is terrible, and yeah. Anyways, by defeating the boss, you get to meet the second character of the game. This is Sypha, and Sypha is the magical wizard of the game. And Sypha is my preferred partner. She has a lot of great sub-weapons, or 3 of them to be exact. He has a fireball attack, which it creates a burst of fire in front of him. He has an electric attack, where a bunch of electric orbs come out and they home in on the boss. It's very effective against taking out bosses. And then he has an ice attack, which is... it's okay. I don't really use it that much. I prefer the electric attack, but it's okay. It's not bad. But we'll see Sypha in a little bit. The game calls Sypha a man, but I always thought of him as a female. I don't know if that's a mistranslation or if he actually is a man, but maybe it's because he has a descendant that's a female, and that's one of my favorite characters in the Castlevania series. But that won't be coming up until the DS games. Anyways, here is the first level 4 of the game. It is a swamp-like area. It's filled with these frogs that jump all around, and it's got your swamp zombies, and it's a pretty interesting level. I know this level has a really strange name. I probably put it up at the beginning of the level, because that's what I'm going to do with this playthrough. At the beginning of every level, I'm going to post the name of the level, so I forgot what the name is, but it's something really strange, and I don't know, you'll see it when I edit it in, but it's just it's a really strange name, and it always makes me laugh, and I'm drawing a blank right here. I can't remember it. I hate it when this happens in a playthrough. I'm thinking of something, but I cannot remember the name of it, and every so often that happens to me, but you know, that's what editing is for. You can just put the name in, put a little annotation or whatever, and that's why I love editing videos. Anyways, This is one of the levels where you really don't want the holy water for the boss. The cross it's a much better option. For most levels in the game, having the holy water is really your best option, but here I suggest you use the cross or the axe. The axe is pretty good too, but not the knife, and I don't think the stopwatch is effective against the boss. It might be. And this game also has the same problem as Castlevania 1, where if you break a candle and then it has a sub-weapon in it and you pick it up, you're stuck with that sub-weapon. Like if you have the holy water and then you get a knife, you cannot get the holy water back. And that's a problem that won't be fixed until one of the Super Nintendo games. I can't remember which one. But one of them has this property where you can get the sub-weapon you just lost. You can get it back. You'll see when we get to the game, but basically, you can break all of the candles without fear of losing your sub-weapon. And that's one of the things I really don't like about the NES Castlevanias, or just 1 and 3 anyway. If you pick up a sub-weapon that you didn't want, you're stuck with it. Anyways, back there was a bat boss. Once it took enough damage, it split into more bats, and that's basically how the fight went. It's a pretty simple boss. If you have the cross, you should be fine, but the axe works just as well. Anyways, here is the second level 4. It is the haunted ghost ship of the game, and here I'm going to be using Sypha. Sypha is sort of a mixed bag. Her melee attack, it's very short ranged. It's even worse than Grant's knife attack. You really can't hit that many enemies with it. So her melee attacks really aren't that great, but her magic attacks are absolutely fantastic. As I said before, all of her magic attacks are great. Her fireball attack is great, and her thunder attack is excellent. But her melee attack is just not that good. And I think that Sypha is the best partner to bring with Trevor. I just think the other two characters really don't compare. I mean, Grant he's great for getting around levels, but his attacks are very weak. And the other character we will meet later on, he's just useless. You'll never use him for anything. You'll be seeing that later, but I think that Sypha is the best character to bring with Trevor. But for this playthrough, I won't be using him all that much, simply because I think that it's most appropriate to play the whole game with Trevor. Simply because he's most like the typical Castlevania character. You know, he has a whip, he walks around the ground, you know, stuff like that. He just feels right. He feels like Simon, and I love playing as Simon. And I don't really know who I like more, Simon or Trevor. I mean, from a gameplay perspective, they play nearly identical. I'm pretty sure they walk at the same speed, they jump the same height, and they whip at the same speed. I'm pretty sure they're identical in pretty much every way except for their sprite. But, you know, I could be wrong on that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think it feels right to play the game as Trevor, you know. These other characters, they're nice, and they're fun to play around with, but when I think Castlevania, I think using my whip, and Trevor is the only character to use a whip, so I will be using Trevor. Now, this level is one of the rare exceptions in the Castlevania series, where a level has 2 bosses. Now here's the first boss. It is, I guess it's supposed to be Medusa? I'm not entirely sure, but if you're using Sypha and you have the flame attack, you will make short work out of the boss. And here we don't get a health refill. You don't get anything, so I hope you have enough health to make it through the rest of the game. Not the rest of the game, no, the rest of the level, silly me. That would be really hard if you only had 1 life in a Castlevania game, and you had to get through the whole game, and you got no health refills at the end of bosses. That would be really hard. I don't even think I could do that for any of the Castlevania games. Any of them. Maybe Castlevania 4, but that would be hard. And especially not Castlevania 3. No. This game is very difficult. In fact, it's one of the hardest games on the NES. It has that reputation, and I think it is true. This game is very difficult. Your first time playing, you're gonna struggle. It's a very difficult game. I mean, if you use the help me code, that kinda helps. But, there's a few tricks you can take advantage of to help you beat the game, like the holy water. And there's another trick I'll be showing off later on. Or I think I do anyway. I think I show off some... it's a pause trick. I think I showed off later, but I don't know. We'll see. But in a few moments, you will see the biggest fail I've ever had in a while. So here I died. Okay, you know, I died. Fine. And look at this. I just run forward. Like, I wasn't even thinking. I thought I had some space to run, and I just fell right off the platform. I face palmed when that happened to me. I could not believe it. And you know, I considered recording this level again just because of that moment. But then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it in. It's embarrassing, sure, but you know, everyone will get a good laugh out of it, so I left it in for your entertainment, and I could not believe I did that. I just walked right off the platform. That's just, that was just bad. There's no excuse for that. I have no excuse. I just fell off, and that's a fail moment. Anyways, here is the boss for level 4. These tombstones have certain enemies in them. The first tombstone has 2 mummies. If you have the flame power-up, they will be destroyed very quickly, I think in 3 to 4 power-ups. And here is a repeat of the boss we faced earlier. And Castlevania 3 does repeat bosses a few times, but with a lot of them, it really doesn't matter to me because they're on different pathways. Like, they're on 2 different pathways that you couldn't possibly go to on the same playthrough. So, you know, it really doesn't bother me all that much. But we will be seeing this boss again, like, twice more, I think. So, this is one of the repeating bosses of the game. But you use the same strategy as before, just run left to right, use your sub-weapons effectively, and you should be fine. It's not the hardest boss in the world. With Sypha, pretty much all of her sub-weapons will take care of the boss without too much of a problem. If you have the electric balls of death, those will kill the boss very quickly. But anyways, that is the end of part number 2. I will see you all in parts number 3.